Layla sat on her bed, her little body shaking and her face scrunched up in pain. "It hurts, Mama, it hurts so bad," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Selena, her mother, sighed and rubbed her nose. "Layla, you can't keep acting like this every time you don't want to go to school," she said, but her voice sounded unsure. "I'll make you some tea. Maybe it's just nerves." But deep down, Selena felt something was wrong. Layla was always tough, and this didn't feel like a normal stomach ache. Layla didn't complain over scrapes or bug bites, so seeing her this way made Selena worry. The tea sat cold on the nightstand, forgotten. Selena gently placed a cold cloth on Layla's forehead, whispering things she didn't truly believe. "You'll feel better soon. It's probably just something you ate." But by the time it was morning, it was clear this wasn't just a stomach ache. Layla's cries grew louder. She couldn't sit up without wincing, and she held her belly like it was burning. "I can't, Mama," Layla whispered. "It feels like something's inside me biting." Selena's heart skipped. The word inside made her shiver. "We're going to the hospital," she said quickly, trying to stay calm, even though she felt a rush of fear. She lifted her weak daughter into her arms and rushed to the car. "Don't worry, my little bird. Mama's got you. We'll get you to the doctor, and they'll fix everything." But as they drove to the hospital, the old car stopped suddenly. Selena tried to start it again, but the engine wouldn't work. She felt helpless. Layla groaned from the back seat, holding her stomach. Selena got out of the car, trying her best to fix it, but nothing worked. The road was empty, and panic started to creep in. Then, in the distance, she saw a truck coming. Selena ran into the road, waving her arms. "Please stop. Please," she yelled. The truck's horn honked loudly, and for a moment, it looked like the driver didn't see her. Then, the truck swerved and stopped right before hitting her. The driver leaned out of the window, angry. "Lady, are you crazy? I almost hit you." But Selena didn't care. "My daughter," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "She's in pain. I can't get the car to start. Please help us." Layla let out a soft cry from the car, her voice weak. The driver's anger turned into concern. "Where is she?" he asked. Selena hurried to the car, her hands trembling. She carefully picked up Layla and carried her to the truck. The driver opened the door and told her to put Layla in the passenger seat. "We'll get to the hospital," he promised. Selena climbed in and held Layla close. The truck roared to life, and they sped down the empty road. The driver gripped the wheel tightly. "There's a hospital about 10 miles up," he said, "but I'll get you there faster." The truck hit a big bump, and Layla let out a sharp cry. Selena rocked her gently. "I'm sorry," she whispered, feeling guilty. "Stay with me, Layla," she said, wiping away her tears. "Do you remember the birthday cake we made last month? The one with all the sprinkles?" Layla's eyes fluttered open. "It was pink," she said softly. Selena smiled through her tears. "That's right. You put so many sprinkles on it. I thought we'd never finish. But we did, didn't we?" Layla smiled faintly, but then it disappeared as she winced in pain. Finally, the hospital came into view, and the driver honked the horn twice. The truck screeched to a stop at the emergency entrance. "Go!" the driver shouted. He jumped out and opened the door for Selena. She held Layla tightly and ran inside. A nurse quickly came over to help. "She needs help," Selena cried, her voice breaking. Nurses rushed to take Layla away on a bed. Selena stood in the middle of the busy room, feeling lost without her daughter. The truck driver gave her a small nod before disappearing. The hospital room smelled like medicine and cleaning supplies. Dr. Elise Harper was standing in the middle, looking calm but moving quickly. She put on a pair of gloves and looked at Layla. "Stay with me, sweetheart," she said softly, bending down to check on Layla. Layla whimpered, barely able to keep her eyes open. "Can you hear me?" Dr. Elise Harper asked gently. Layla nodded weakly. "Good girl," Dr. Elise Harper said, standing up. She turned to the nurses. "Get the equipment ready. I need a closer look." The nurses hurried to get everything prepared. Selena stood in the doorway, her hands shaking. "What's happening to her?" she asked, her voice full of fear. The nurse gently stopped her from coming closer. "Let us work," the nurse said. Dr. Elise Harper looked back at Selena, her face serious. "We're doing everything we can. I'll tell you as soon as I know anything." Selena nodded and stepped back, letting the nurse guide her out of the room. Inside, Dr. Elise Harper worked quickly. Layla's skin was sweaty, and her breathing was fast and shallow. "Stay with me, sweetheart," Elise Harper whispered, adjusting the machine to get a better look. When she looked closer, she saw something strange, red marks and an awful smell. She leaned in more, her eyes narrowing. There was something beneath Layla's skin that shouldn't be there. Dr. Elise Harper stepped back, her heart pounding. "Give me the head of surgery now," she said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. "And I need blood tests fast. Prepare for surgery." The nurses quickly ran to get ready, their shoes making sharp sounds on the clean floor. Dr. Elise Harper stood there, looking at Layla, knowing that whatever was happening was very serious. As the people left, Elise Harper took off her gloves and stepped away from the bed. Layla let out a small noise, her eyes opening for a moment. "It's okay," Elise Harper said softly, putting a hand on the girl's shoulder. "You're in good hands, I promise." She turned and walked quickly toward the door, trying to stay calm, but the picture of what she had just seen stayed in her mind. Selena was walking back and forth in the waiting room when Elise Harper came out. The sound of Elise Harper's shoes on the floor caught Selena's attention. She ran over, her face pale and full of worry. "Doctor, please, what's wrong with her?" "What did you see?" she asked, her voice full of fear. Elise Harper paused for just a second before putting her hand on Selena's arm. "Mrs. Novak," she started, her voice steady but serious. "Your daughter has a very serious problem. She has an infection, and it's spreading fast. It's very rare and dangerous. We need to act right now to give her the best chance." Selena froze, her eyes wide. "Aggressive," she whispered. "What does that mean?" "It means surgery," Elise Harper said gently, but with a sense of urgency in her voice. "We have to remove the infected parts before it spreads more." Selena's legs shook, and she grabbed the back of a chair to keep herself up. "Oh God," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "She's just a child. How did this happen?" Elise Harper squeezed her arm gently. "We'll do everything we can. She's strong, and so are you." Selena tried to hold herself together, her lips pressed tight as she nodded. "Can I see her before?" she asked quietly, her voice breaking. Elise Harper thought for a moment, then nodded. "A minute," she said, "but we can't wait too long." When Selena walked into the room, Layla's face lit up for a second, and her lips moved into the smallest smile. "Mama," she whispered, her voice weak. Selena knelt down beside her, brushing a lock of hair from her daughter's forehead. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here," Selena said softly. As Layla's eyes closed again, Selena kissed her on the cheek. She let the tears fall freely. When the nurses came to take Layla to surgery, Selena stayed by her side, her hands shaking as she whispered a prayer. "Please, God, keep her safe." Behind her, Elise Harper stood, her jaw tight, her thoughts racing as she watched. The operating room was busy, with everyone moving quickly but carefully. The bright, cold lights above Layla's small body shone down, and the sounds of beeping machines filled the air. Layla was lying still, her tiny body surrounded by the big machines. Dr. Elise Harper checked her gloves and looked around at the other doctors and nurses. "Okay, everyone focus," she said firmly. "This is a serious infection. We need to remove the bad tissue right away. Every second counts." A young doctor, Dr. Peter Lang, looked nervous as he checked his tools. Elise Harper caught his eye and gave him a sharp look. "Dr. Peter Lang, if you're going to help, you need to be steady. If not, step out now." Peter Lang swallowed hard, looking scared. "I'm good, Dr. Elise Harper," he said quietly. Elise Harper nodded and turned back to Layla. "Let's begin." The first cut was made carefully, cutting through the infected skin. The room was silent except for the sounds of the machines and the nurses moving around. But as they went deeper, the infection looked worse. It had spread into the skin and tissue, making it soft and black. "Oh no," Dr. Peter Lang muttered, his face pale. "It's worse than we thought." Elise Harper didn't look up. "Focus on your work," she said firmly. Peter Lang nodded, but his hands were shaking as he grabbed the suction tool. A nurse looked at him with concern, but didn't say anything. Then suddenly, Peter Lang froze. His face went even paler, and he looked like he might fall. Elise Harper watched for a second, then called out, "Get him out of here." A nurse rushed over, helping Peter Lang out of the room. Elise Harper didn't look at him again. Stay focused, she ordered the rest of the team. We don't have time for mistakes. The team worked quickly. Elise Harper moved carefully, removing the dead tissue. Clamp, she said, her voice steady. She was thinking fast as she worked. The infection was spreading more than they had thought, and every time they took out bad tissue, they found more damage. Then, just as Elise Harper was about to cut another piece of infected tissue, the power to the tools went out. What's happening? She asked, her voice sharp. Power is down, a nurse answered quickly. We need to switch to the backup. The room got tense, everyone scrambling to set up the backup equipment. Elise Harper stood still, her hands frozen in midair, not wanting to touch anything that could cause a mistake. The seconds felt like forever. Backup is ready, the nurse finally said. Elise Harper took a deep breath. Let's continue, she said, trying to stay calm. The rest of the surgery felt like a race against time. Every move was planned carefully. When they finally finished, the tray was filled with the tissue they had removed. Elise Harper looked at the anesthesiologist. How is she? Her pressure is stable, the anesthesiologist replied. Good, Elise Harper said. She turned to the team. Closer up. We've done all we can for now. Hours later, Selena sat in the waiting room, holding her hands tightly together. The smell of the hospital felt strong, and the quiet made her nervous. When the door opened, she jumped up. Elise Harper walked toward her, looking calm but serious. Doctor? Selena asked, her voice shaky. How is she? She's alive, Elise Harper said gently. She's stable. It will take time for her to heal, but she made it through. Tears filled Selena's eyes, a mix of relief and worry. Thank you, she whispered, barely able to speak. Elise Harper put a hand on Selena's shoulder. You're stronger than you know, she said quietly. And so is she. As Elise Harper left the room, Selena sat alone, feeling the weight of the moment. She reached for the arm of her chair, her nails digging into the metal. Her mind raced with questions, but there was something else bothering her, something she had been feeling all morning. At first, it was a small discomfort, but now it was impossible to ignore. She shifted in her seat, feeling a sharp pain in her lower stomach. When she stood up to go to the restroom, a warm trickle ran down her leg. She froze. No, she whispered, panic filling her chest. She quickly hurried to the restroom, locking the door behind her. Her hands shook as she looked down, seeing a little bit of blood. Not much, but enough to make her heart race. Could this be connected to Layla? Was the infection spreading like this too? Selena held her shaking hand to her forehead. Calm down, she whispered to herself. You're just overthinking. It's just stress. But her body didn't agree. Her knees felt weak, and a burning pain spread deeper inside her. When she walked out of the restroom, her face was pale, and her breathing was fast and shallow. A nurse saw her right away. Ma'am, are you okay? The nurse asked with worry. Selena shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. It hurts, she whispered, her voice breaking. And I'm bleeding. Please, I need someone to check. I need to know if it's like my daughter. Soon, Selena was sitting on a table in the exam room, her legs dangling. A nurse was getting things ready, working quietly. Then Dr. Elise Harper walked in. She usually seemed calm, but now she looked worried. Selena, Elise Harper said softly as she put on gloves. Tell me everything you're feeling. Selena explained about the burning pain, the ache, and the bleeding. Elise Harper listened carefully, her face becoming more serious. She didn't say much, just nodded and worked. When the exam began, Selena flinched, her body stiff. Elise Harper leaned back after finishing the check. Her face was serious. It's early, she said, trying to sound gentle. But there's inflammation, and it looks like an infection. We need to test this right away. Selena, I think it might be the same bacteria as before. Selena's heart sank. You mean like Layla? But how? These bacteria can spread through small cuts or wounds, Elise Harper explained, pulling off her gloves with a snap. Have you had any scrapes or scratches lately? Selena nodded as she remembered a small scrape on her leg. It didn't seem like much, just a tiny scratch. That's all it takes, Elise Harper said grimly. She quickly left the room, calling for tests and special safety measures. The hospital suddenly felt different. Nurses and doctors moved quickly, and people whispered in hushed voices. First, they had talked about Layla, and now they were worried about Selena. The fear spread faster when a young nurse named Alyssa stumbled into the hallway, holding her stomach. "I'm fine," Alyssa said, though she was pale and sweating. "You're not fine," snapped the head nurse, grabbing Alyssa's arm. "Sit down." Alyssa sat, wincing. "It's just a little cramp. I've been on my feet all day." But when the team checked her, they found something alarming: a small cut on her arm. It didn't look bad at first, but the skin around it had turned red and swollen. Everyone realized the terrible truth at the same time. "It's spreading," someone whispered. Within an hour, the hospital was in full lockdown. Big plastic barriers went up, blocking off parts of the building. Nurses and doctors wore extra gear to protect themselves. The air felt heavy with fear. In the middle of all this, Dr. Elise Harper stayed focused. She gave orders quickly. "Test everyone who's been near these patients," she said firmly. "No exceptions. Prioritize lab results." She didn't stop moving until she looked down at her own hand and froze. A small red spot had appeared near her thumb. "No," she whispered to herself, scrubbing her hand hard with antiseptic wipes. The sting told her the truth. She was infected too. A nurse approached her with a clipboard. "Dr. Elise Harper, should I?" "Not now," Elise Harper snapped, cutting her off. "Focus on the patients." The nurse hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Elise Harper clenched her fist, pushing the pain aside. She didn't have time for this. Meanwhile, Selena was lying in a hospital bed. She was pale and barely breathing, and the machines beeped in warning. "Her blood pressure is dropping," a nurse called out. Elise Harper rushed to Selena's bedside. The infection had spread into Selena's bloodstream, causing sepsis. Elise Harper worked quickly, adjusting the medicines and giving orders. "Push 100 milligrams of norepinephrine," she said. "Get the antibiotics ready." Across the hall, Layla, Selena's daughter, was also in trouble. She was still recovering from surgery, but the infection was making her worse. Her fever was dangerously high, and her surgical wound was swelling. "We have to make a choice," said Dr. Patel, another doctor, as he walked into Layla's room. "What do you mean?" Elise Harper asked sharply. "Two critical patients, but not enough resources," Patel explained. "If we focus too much on one, we might lose the other." Elise Harper's jaw tightened. "Both need us," she said firmly. "We'll stabilize them both." Elise Harper assigned Patel to help with Selena, while another doctor took charge of Layla. In Selena's room, Elise Harper worked tirelessly. "Come on, Selena," she whispered as she adjusted the ventilator. Suddenly, the heart monitor let out a loud, irregular beep. "She's coding," a nurse shouted. Elise Harper jumped into action. "Start compressions," she said, pressing her hands against Selena's chest. 1, 2, 3, she counted, sweat dripping down her face. Finally, the monitor beeped steadily again. Selena's heart was beating. "She's back," Elise Harper said, her voice shaky with relief. In Layla's room, the young girl opened her eyes briefly. A nurse adjusted her for and spoke softly, though Layla could barely hear. "We're doing everything we can," the nurse said gently. By morning, both Selena and Layla had stabilized. The fight wasn't over, but they had made it through the night. When Dr. Selena opened her eyes, the morning light filled the room softly. She blinked slowly, her body feeling heavy and weak. Her head was fuzzy as she tried to remember where she was and what had happened. "Selena," a gentle voice said. She turned to see Dr. Elise Harper standing beside her, looking calm but very tired. "How is Layla?" Selena asked, her voice barely a whisper. Elise Harper paused for a moment. "She's stable," she said softly, "but I need to tell you something important." Elise Harper sat down in a chair, folding her hands tightly in her lap. "We had to remove part of her uterus," Elise Harper said slowly. "The infection had spread too much. If we didn't do it, she wouldn't have made it." Selena felt like her heart stopped. "Her uterus? What does that mean?" she asked. Elise Harper nodded sadly. "It means Layla may not be able to have children when she grows up." "I'm so sorry." Selena closed her eyes as tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's my fault," she whispered, feeling so much sadness. "I waited too long. I should have brought her to the hospital earlier." Elise Harper gently placed her hand on Selena's arm. You did everything you could, she said kindly. You saved her life by coming when you did. But Selena didn't feel comforted. Later that day, Elise Harper stood in the hospital hallway, looking at her hand. It was red and swollen, and it hurt badly when she moved it. You need to get that checked, Dr. Patel said, walking up to her. I will, Elise Harper said quickly, but Patel looked worried. Elise Harper, you can't keep working like this. If the infection gets worse. I know, Elise Harper snapped, then sighed. I know, but I have too much to do. I can't stop now. 2 days later, Elise Harper's infection had gotten worse. She sat in a doctor's office, staring at her hand, which was now badly infected. The doctor explained the infection was too deep, and the only way to stop it was to remove her hand. Elise Harper didn't cry or argue. She just nodded. Do it, she said quietly. When people in the hospital heard about her surgery, they came to support her. Nurses, doctors, and even patients thanked her for her hard work. You're a hero, one nurse said. Elise Harper shook her head. I just did my job, she said, though deep inside, she knew her job had cost her so much. Even after losing her hand, Elise Harper kept working hard. She couldn't do surgeries anymore, but she helped teach younger doctors and made sure the hospital was safer for everyone. One day, a nurse brought her a file. Dr. Elise Harper, we found something, she said. Elise Harper opened the file. It showed that all the sick patients had been near stagnant water in the same neighborhood. Elise Harper's heart sank as she remembered Layla playing in puddles on a rainy day. That must have been when she got sick. Elise Harper called for a team to investigate. When they reached the neighborhood, they found a broken storm drain surrounded by dirty water. The water had been leaking into the ground, spreading dangerous bacteria. At a meeting in the community center, Elise Harper explained everything. We found the problem, she said. The bacteria came from dirty water near a broken storm drain. The crowd gasped. People looked shocked and scared. This isn't about blaming anyone, Elise Harper said firmly. It's about fixing the problem and keeping everyone safe. She explained how to avoid stagnant water and asked everyone to report problems right away. Selena sat in the front row, her hand resting on Layla's shoulder. She felt proud of Elise Harper for helping everyone understand how to stay safe. Layla went back to school, but it wasn't easy. Kids whispered about her and stared. Is it true you almost died? A boy asked her one day. Layla didn't answer. She hugged her backpack and walked away, feeling sad. That night, she sat quietly on her bed, not saying a word. Selena knelt beside her and gently brushed her hair. Sweetheart, I know this is hard, she said, but you're so strong. Those scars you have, they show how brave you are. You survived something really tough. Layla's lip trembled. But they make me look weird, she said. No, Selena said, hugging her tightly. They make you look brave. With her mom's help, Layla started to feel better. She joined our classes and even spoke at events to share her story. People stopped whispering and started admiring her courage. Selena, too, found a new purpose. She worked hard to teach families about water safety and hygiene. This isn't just about my family, she said during a speech. It's about making sure this never happens to anyone else. The community came together. Neighbors fixed drains, cleaned parks, and made sure everyone stayed safe. Elise Harper, meanwhile, adjusted to her new life without her hand. She worked as a medical advisor, helping others and inspiring young doctors. One rainy afternoon, Selena and Layla stood by their window, watching the rain fall. Rain doesn't seem so scary anymore, Layla said quietly. Selena put her arm around her daughter. No, it doesn't. It's just a reminder of how strong we've become. As the rain fell, mother and daughter stood together, ready to face whatever came next. This story is made up, but its message is very real. Many children and families face problems like these every day. Some don't get better, and others have scars that stay with them forever. It's important for adults to protect kids, act quickly when they're sick, and keep our environment clean. Something small, like dirty water, can cause big problems if we're not careful. Dr. Elise Harper's story shows how doctors make tough choices to save lives. We should always thank them for their hard work. Parents, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, don't wait. And let's all take care of each other and our planet. What would you have done if you were Selena? If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring, and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.